there are problems with it. Or sometimes, in fact, with some people, if you go for a particular business, you will not get it done because you don't call the people the name he or she would want you to call it. So that is it. There is nothing wrong with calling people, calling them Al-Hajja, or Hajja, or Ajarat, whatever, because they have become social titles, but they are not necessary, and they are not part of the process.
Okay. Osas, but you know, people are different. Now, if you are so that Mr. X or Mr. Y, if I call him Alaji, at least that could influence him, or that could motivate him to act good and act like a gentleman, per se. Will it be mandatory upon you then to call him just to spur his actions towards good?
In other words, sort of to...
you know, some people, if you call them, for example, if you attach to them titles, they act, you know,
quickly, because they are, and that's why I'm saying that the tradition has it that call people the names that they like.
Exactly.
With some people, particularly if you go to them to get a particular business done, you have to call them the name that you want them to call you. You understand? It might be part of a social discipline, because I can remember when we were in the Indian subcontinent studying, some of these retired, military men who are also well educated, they'll come to teach in the university. I remember one of them specifically will want you to call him, to address him, sir. Like if you call your name, you must say yes, sir, for instance, because they are coming from a particular disciplinary background, and they are very disciplined people, and they also want you to treat them in a very disciplined way. So fine, this thing too, some people, not because they are disciplined, but because they believe that there is something that they earn, they work very hard to earn, and they deserve it. And also they like to be called that name because it's a special prestige for them in society. And people that are prestigious, or people that have been able to make certain achievements, they always want to be recognized as such publicly. And recognizing them publicly will sort of win their hearts toward you. You'll be able to win their support or to win their hearts. So in other words, you also become somebody who is personally interested in calling them the names that they want to be called. But what one has to understand here is that this is then it just becomes a social title, sort of a cultural practice, or whatever name you call it, but it is not necessarily part of Islam as an injunction, or it's not something that you may call sunnah, or it's not something that you say one must do, otherwise one will be accounted for. So it's just a cultural, social practice or social norm. People are not bound to do, but if doing it, make them, closer together, and then bring more peace among themselves, fine, they can go ahead doing it. But it's not part of the process, I said.
Okay. No. Thank you very much for answering that question. Also, another interesting thing that we currently were witnessing in this Alaji and Aja boom is that the different parties they organized to welcome their mothers, their aunties, and their fathers who come from Mecca. These celebrations are done in different styles and in different forms. Now, what are the specific means or ways of doing them according to Islam?
Modesty. Do it in a very modest way. Yes, traditionally, when travelers return home, they are welcomed. This is part of the welcoming ceremony exercise, and sometimes they go to the extent of organizing a special ceremony to welcome them. You understand? And fine. It is important to keep things within their normal limit. What you may call a welcome ceremony or program for an Al-Hajj, or Bunya or Tiranga, whatever name you may call it, has its limit as far as Islam is concerned. Do it in a very modest way and do it for the sake of God. You're spending the dollars that you do to welcome your Hajj is lillahi. Whether people give you or they don't give you, this is what you can do. Do what you can do for the sake of God, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And make sure also you do it in accordance with Sunnah of the Prophet of Islam, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Make it in a very low profile fashion. Let it be very modest, and make sure that you don't incur any financial liability for the sake of doing it. If you don't have it, you don't have it. You don't have to take loan in the first instance. You don't have to go and ask people to give you money so they'll be able to do it. If you cannot do it, you cannot do it. La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wusaha. You know, what you cannot do, you must not do. You are not obliged to do. That's what Islam says. So do it in a very modest way. And you don't also have to do it lavishly. Because normally, what do we do? What are the things that we put together when we welcome a stranger or a guest or a visitor? Food, let it be halal food. Drink, halal drink. Of course, naturally, there couldn't be halal for halal drink. But what I'm saying is somebody doesn't have to, how to call it, steal money in order to eat. You don't have to incur financial liability. You don't have to embark upon a corrupt practice or a deceptive transaction in order for you to get money and to be able to do it. This will distort the whole process. You understand? So keep it within the limit of welcome. Let it not be too flamboyant, too exorbitant, extravagant.
It's one major problem.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
Now it is a custom. You can never do this alaji bunya or teranga.
Yeah.
It is done with the bull.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
Nobody slaughters the ram whatsoever.
Yeah,
That's too small.
What happens if you cannot afford to buy a bull?
You must do something to have it.
I mean, and again, what is your question now will be? What will be the basis of this obligation?
Exactly.
I'm obliged to do it. I must do it. Who told you? Who said so? You're a Muslim.
Yeah.
And the basis of obligations are anchored in Sharia, whether you call them mandatory or recommendable or whatever, but they are anchored in Sharia. But this is simply a social ceremony. If you want to Islamize it, we make sure that we do it in a way that does not contradict the teaching. Like like the Tobaski or the Korite celebrations. These are Islamic feasts, but they will continue to be Islamic and they will retain their Islamic character insofar as they are not conducted in a way that contradicts the teaching of Islam. The same thing also will apply here. It's an Islamic ceremony. You can call it an Islamic ceremony, even though it's a social one, but the Islamicity of it will be maintained if it is conducted in accordance with the teaching of Islam. And it doesn't have to be a bull. People can come together, and in fact, it doesn't have to consume a whole day. Few hours, you can cook lunch. And I mean, any food, decent food that people would like to come. Normally, when people come to gather there, their business, their objective is not to come together in order for the sake of partying. But here's somebody who's going to be honored, and they come to attend the honors, the honoring ceremony. So you understand. So therefore, people don't have to incur liability. People don't have to, put themselves in trouble. And a ceremony which will not last more than one day. So if you incur huge liability upon yourself, the next day, where are you going to be? And life continues anyway.
Yeah.
The same way that you give fish money for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, you continue to do it the next day. And life continues anyway. And if you are working, if you are a civil servant, you are in the middle of the month, you've taken loan, so by the time you get to the end of the month, you have spent the salary for that month. So you continue struggling in order for you to be able to provide the basic necessities for your family, and you may cause problems within the family because you cannot afford it. So in other words, I think it is important for Muslims to understand that what you may call social is simply social. Ceremonies are simply ceremonies. Let them be kept within the normal limit, and let them make sure that they are not conducted in a way that will create problems for them in the future. Okay. You understand? Or that will incur certain liabilities or sin upon them. Wallahu alam.
Okay. And another thing also, some organize this program. I want to ask how Islamic is this by calling a gathering of Islamic students or Islamic scholars to recite the Holy Quran, and then they will invite a preacher who will come and educate people on the fundamentals of Islam. Sometimes the Ujaj himself will take time to explain his experience to the people. Now, how do you
I think it's very good that way, and that exactly makes it typically Islamic. And it enhances the Islamic character of the ceremony, or the Islamicity of the ceremony. Quran, recite the Quran properly, and they do prayers.
And the Ujaj explain maybe his or her experience.
Yes. And a preacher comes and gives lecture on the Hajj, the social importance of Hajj. You understand, the spiritual importance of Hajj. And that will motivate others who have not gone to Hajj to prepare themselves so that next year they can go. They work hard to go next year. And in the same process too, because now they are maintaining the Islamic character of the program, they will not go beyond the limit. of the activity of the ceremony. I think that makes it, that is, in my humble opinion, that is a very good way of conducting these buya or teranga, ceremonies for the alhajis and hajjas.